Okay, so the high holidays are coming up, I guess, soon enough, because a lot of you have been asking questions about basically about family stuff, like getting ready for spending a lot of prolonged time with family, big family gatherings, going back to family or the home where you grew up, that kind of stuff. So, and I'm getting questions from parents, from adult children. So let me just try to deal with this subject in one video that should help everyone, whatever role you are in whatever age, stage of life. Let's just talk about the consistent, like underlying universal rules for gracefully dealing with the high holidays and all of the family stuff that it involves. All right. First thing here, let's just talk about why is it so stressful? Why can it be so stressful to be with family? Because if you think about it, it's like there's a unique challenge here. It has to do with the fact that these people are your family. In other words, not that it would necessarily be thrilling, but if you had to spend that much time around other people who are not your family, I don't know if you would have the same reaction. In fact, I might even argue, I think this is a pretty strong argument actually. High holidays are coming up. You're going to spend a lot of time in shul, right? And in shul, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people around you, right? And yet nobody is asking me, oh man, what do I do with all the people I'm going to have to see in shul? Nobody's asking. Not one person asked me that. But I'm getting a lot of questions. What do I do about all these family members I'm going to be exposed to during the holidays? So obviously there's something uniquely challenging about the fact that this is your family, right? That's all part of it. It's not just I'm going to be around a bunch of people. You understand what I'm saying? It's not just I'm going to be trapped dealing with people. It's these people. So let's talk about why these people are uniquely triggering. In fact, I'll say another little thought experiment here that just popped up in my mind, which is if you could, in theory, spend the holidays with someone else's family, some random family. And I don't mean your spouse's family, because that's called your in-laws, which has its own special flavor of stress. But I mean, like student exchange, like foreign student exchange program. What do they call that? Like you go live with some family in France for a year. Like imagine like that, yeah. So maybe it's a little bit awkward because you don't know them. You got to get to know them, but definitely like all the drama and like the triggers. That's going to be completely gone. So why is it that these people called your family of origin or your spouse's family of origin are so uniquely triggering to you? All right. So one thing to be very aware of is this. We are all on a journey, and hopefully in that journey, we make progress. We travel a significant distance. In other words, we don't want to be stuck. We don't want to be like stagnant. So if you were to tell me like, I'm 40 years old and I'm the same person I was when I was 15, that wouldn't be a good thing, right? So all of us are on a journey. We've all grown. All right. But what happens is this. Let's say you've grown, whatever that means. You've learned about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your comfort level with different things, what you like, what you don't like, your preferences, communication style, all these things you figure out in life. Your values, that's the biggest one, like what matters to you, what's important to you. And again, what you know about that at 40 isn't what you knew about it at 15. What you know about it at 60 is not what you knew about it at 40, if you're growing, which, God willing, you are growing. What happens, though, is you go back to this place, which is where they all knew you the way you used to be. I'm going to say something that's going to sound completely bizarre, and you're going to say, why are you going on a tangent? Why are you completely changing the subject? Trust me, okay? I was talking to someone who works for Aleph. Aleph is an organization that it was started actually in Florida, in Miami, by Rabbi Lipsker, Olav Shalom, rest in peace, who just passed away this year. But now it's a huge operation all over the country. Basically, they assist people who are in the prison system. So people who go through incarceration for any period of time, they help those people. Okay. So it was very interesting to me. I heard that they have a hard time with fundraising because you think, well, why would you have a hard time fundraising? It's such, it's a humanitarian project. It appeals to people's sense of kindness. You're helping the downtrodden. You're helping the people who are in a difficult situation. The problem is this, that most causes depend on the people that they've helped to give back at some point. And like a school, imagine, like beyond tuition that they're charging from the parents, where's most of their fundraising going to be? From alumni. Everyone knows that, okay? Or a community, a synagogue, a shul, right? Beyond membership, where do they fundraise mostly from? From the community itself, right? The Aleph has a difficulty with fundraising from people who they helped. And they realize it's because for most people, the time they were in prison is not a time they want to think about anymore. They don't want to associate themselves with that anymore. And so they get the envelope, help Aleph, and it's like there's something like primal, like this limbic response of push that away. That's a trigger, get that away. So even though logically they helped you when you were at your lowest point, that's the most important cause to give back to. No, but it's like, it's uncomfortable. It's a uncomfortable reminder, push it away. All right. Let me go back to our discussion. You understand what I'm saying? Why that would be an apt metaphor in this case? When you go back home, you are being reminded of the person that you don't want to be anymore. And you know how we all have like cringe moments? You're like 3 a.m, you remember something absolutely cringeworthy that you said or you did. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. Wish that never happened. And by the way, if you're a person who's growing, then you should have that, because only people who don't grow never look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever was that person. So if you're growing, of course you have that. But now imagine you're around the people who knew you when you were like that and made up nicknames for you when you were like that, who established patterns of socializing with you when you were like that, who created in-jokes and references that they want you to still laugh at that were based on when you were like that. So a lot of the underlying stress of going back to family events and gatherings is the inherent tension between the person you are now and the person that they are used to you having been. Following what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, let's leave aside dysfunctional families or dysfunctional members of families where there's extra drama. I'll talk about that in a minute. But even leaving aside where there's extra drama, even if there's no dysfunction, there's no toxicity, just a regular family, it's still going to be stressful because you're going back to the place, not just the place, it's the sights and the sounds. You don't realize how our brains work. Even just being in a place that has the same carpet of when I was a version of myself that I find appalling today, that can be stressful. And you don't even realize how stressful it is because it's not a conscious thing. And every time you're seeing that carpet, it's triggering these subconscious memories. That can be very stressful. At any rate, so here's the thing. Realize that this is a real thing, accept it, name it, maybe even say it out loud. Say, I'm going to the place to hang out with the people, to be in the settings where I was a previous version of myself that I clearly have grown out of being. And you know what? It's okay. First of all, it's okay because they're just memories. Can't hurt me, can't do anything to me. I am who I am today. I can't be forced to be something that I'm not anymore. So I'm safe. But second of all, I invite the challenge. What do I mean I invite the challenge? It says in the Talmud, how do you know someone has done teshuvah? Teshuvah literally means return, has been reinstated. We translate it often as repentance. It's not really repentance, but at any rate. How do you know someone has truly done teshuvah? So a person could say, well, I regret my sin. I did teshuvah. Well, you regret it like to what extent? That you wouldn't do it again? I believe you. But, do you regret that you ever did it? We don't really know. We don't know. Maybe you did it. You got it out of your system. You're glad you experienced it. And now you're moving on. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not the same person anymore. But how do you know you're really a changed person? You're not that person anymore. So the Talmud says the one way to really know, and there's no way to engineer this. You can't purposely cause this to happen. It has to happen by divine providence, meaning God has to make it happen, is if you're put in the same situation with the same opportunity and you don't do the same thing, you don't make the same mistake, that's a proof. That's a proof. But the only way to really know is to be back in the same situation with the same setting, the same people, the same circumstances, and to resist. That means that you've really changed. So here's what I want to tell you. Going back to the scene of the crime, so to speak, going back to your family of origin, where all the old patterns exist, and the reminders of those patterns, the little visual cues and auditory cues and subconscious signals, even the energy, spiritually, just energy. Places have energy. Certainly homes that have had families in them have energy. At any rate, when you go back to that same setting and you are the person that you've become and don't revert to the person who you were, that is the greatest sign that you have actually changed. So that is something to celebrate. Like, that's a triumph. That's a cool thing. And if you can look at it like that, I think maybe it doesn't make it less stressful, but it gives the stress meaning, and you may even appreciate the opportunity. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, let's talk about, I said we're going to talk about when the situation is toxic, when you do have like really dysfunctional people. Sometimes it's the whole family is dysfunctional. Sometimes it's just one person. Rarely is it totally just one person, because that's the nature of families. Families sort of get their sickness on each other. Unless everybody sort of heals and refuses to play the game. And even if one person remains sick, like everyone else can become well. But, that's unusual. Let's say, though, you're going to be exposed to dysfunction. So here's the main thing. The main thing is, I'm going to say a word that you're familiar with, and it's very trite, but maybe I'll try to explain it to you in a way that will have some unique insight. It's all about boundaries. Boundaries, okay? So when you're dealing with people who don't have their own sense of shame, who are behaving shamelessly, so one of the things that often happens is we vicariously feel their shame, which is exhausting and painful. And it's not the proper response. The proper response is to protect ourselves from their shameless behavior. And protecting yourself with boundaries means this. I want to explain to you what boundaries are. A boundary is not an ultimatum. An ultimatum would be when I tell you, hey, here's what you got to do, and if you don't do it, here's what I'm going to do back. Here's my retaliation. Here are the consequences. In other words, I'm trying to manipulate your behavior by creating some disincentive. That's not a boundary. A boundary, a real boundary, is when I say to you, I know I cannot control your behavior. I have zero expectations, actually, regarding your behavior. I have preferences of how I would like you to behave, but you totally have free will to behave however you want. But I'm just letting you know that here's how I'm going to be reacting. Not as a manipulation. I'm not trying to influence your decision anyway. I'm just, in the interest of transparency, I don't want there to be misunderstandings. I'm letting you know, if you do such and such, here's how I'm going to respond. And that could be something as severe as like, I'm going to leave, right? If you do such and such, I'm going to leave. But it's not like, you better not do such and such or else I'll leave. That's manipulation. That's a game. And by the way, then that's how you get somebody to do such and such, just so they can see you leave. This is more like, Here's what I need to do for my sanity. Here's what I need to do to be true to my values and principles and standards. And so that we're all on the same page, just letting you know, this is what I'm going to be doing. That's a boundary. That's a boundary. Now, of course, some people are so unwell that they will test your boundaries, but that's okay. Because again, the point of the boundary was not an ultimatum. The point of the boundary was not manipulative. The point of the boundary was not to influence somebody else's behavior. So if you state a boundary and someone pushes back against it, it doesn't mean that your boundary failed. If it was an ultimatum, maybe it failed, because the point of the ultimatum was really trying to influence the other person not to do something. And then if they do it anyway, then it didn't really work. Your game of chicken failed, right? Boundaries are not a game of chicken. They're the opposite. A boundary is, I'm prepared for whatever. I mean, I hope that we can all enjoy ourselves and enjoy our time together. And, that's what I'm hoping for. But just letting you know, these are the things that I'm going to be okay with and not okay with. And here's how I'm going to respond. So that should hopefully be helpful to some people. Okay, just one more thing I want to mention regarding if you're a parent. Okay, if you're a parent and you've got kids coming home, maybe even married kids, and they have their own kids, I want to give you some advice. It is one of the greatest joys to be the parent who can host the family in your home. It's your reward for making it this far. Really, it is. Don't ruin it. Don't spoil it. Don't go on a power trip. Success is that everyone feels relaxed in your home. What's a home? A home is where you can be yourself. So the fact that you have a home where people can come of all generations, your children's spouses, your grandchildren, and feel relaxed. If you can create such an environment where everyone feels at home, truly at home, you are a success. Don't power trip. Don't get distracted by focusing on other things that you think are successful, like, I don't know, certain expectations you have in your mind of what family gatherings are supposed to look like, or how people are supposed to behave. And then you get into all this controlling and manipulation, and it's so just not attractive, and it makes people run away from you. And then, yeah, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Don't do that. Don't ruin something that's so beautiful. Have the poise, the grace to bite your tongue. Save the comments. For sure, save the criticism. Nobody needs to hear it. And if you can be the safe place where generations can come and be relaxed, then you want to know something? When people are ready to hear your advice, because there's no point giving someone advice that they're not ready to hear. But when they are ready to hear your advice, they'll come ask for it, because you've earned that trustworthiness in their eyes. Okay, so parents, people who are my age, I'm 51, people who are older, really don't waste this golden opportunity to make everyone feel relaxed, and especially with your children-in-law, make sure that they feel relaxed, that they don't feel judged or scrutinized, and don't pressure the grandkids to be cute and to perform, and whatever would just make things tense and pressuresome, and just don't do that. Don't do that. Just make everything cool and easy, comfortable. Okay. All right. Anyways, have a delightful Yom Tov.